The race to occupy the presidential seat in Nigeria has just been concluded with the winner declared. And the winner, of course, you and I know by now, that is another person than President Muhammadu Buhari, whom Nigeria has given the mandate to also run the affairs of this nation for the next 4 years. At International Conference Center yesterday, which has been used as the National Coalition Center, President Buhari and his Vice President were presented their certificates of return, which rubber stamp and of course confirmed the fact that they can now run that offices, that is office of the presidency and that vice presidency, for the next 4 years. Nigerians have also been speaking on the presidential poll that was held on Saturday, February 23rd. They have also been speaking about the expectations from this administration in the next 4 years. Now, on Democratic Party this week, we can also not close our eyes to that election which occurred last Saturday. And that's why on the program we're going to do a post-mortem of the presidential poll that was held last Saturday. It wasn't the only election, but we are limiting ourselves to that election because the National Assembly election, of which we have the Senate and the House of Representatives, have not been concluded in all the states of the Federation. A lot of results have been released. Some few are still inconclusive. So we are going to do a post-mortem of the presidential poll on Democratic Party. Welcome to the program. My name is Tunde Shodake, and I have with me two gentlemen whom since 1999 have witnessed the first general elections that was held in Nigeria, and this is the sixth one that we're having now. So we've had transition from one government to another, and we also had transition from an opposition party, incumbent party to an opposition party, which we saw in 2015. So that is going to be our scope. What are the things that we need to take away from this election? What are the things that people are expecting from Buhari-led administration for another 4 years? To join me in this discourse, I have to my immediate right, Dr. Ebenezer Nkom. Dr. Nkom, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much today.
Right. And also have in the house too another Nigerian who, of course, has passion for this nation, and he believes that this nation will get better. And that is why he has decided to remain and be part of the process, no matter what the condition might look like. And that's Engineer Abiodun Fijabi. You're also welcome to the program.
Thank you today. Good afternoon.
Maybe I'll start this way.
Yes.
Did the two of you, did you vote on that day?
Yes, I was in, I would say that without any equivocation, yes. And it was okay, everything went on well. We've seen the results. Although they had skirmishes here and there, I never saw it. All what I see is in the papers. And the result is out. We all know what has happened now. And the problem I have today, I want to go into the problem, is that before the election, the two gladiators, I will call them the APC and PDP, the other ones were just, I'm sorry, pretenders to the throne. They sign a document that they will accept the result of the election. And I'm very worried that it wasn't under any duress. Nobody was coerced to sign it. They signed it, shook hands in the clear light. I'm worried about that. When the result came out, some political parties want to contest it, want to do this, heating up the polity again. I don't know when we will. There are no perfect elections. Globally, nowhere. The only perfect election is when you don't have an election or in a communist state. Like Cuba, perhaps in China, where you have 90, 100%, 99%. Those are, we don't consider the democratic election, but there are no perfect elections anywhere. So we expect imperfection. Nigeria has never been a perfect entity. There's nothing perfect in Nigeria. We Nigerians are Nigerians, and we know who we are. So while hitting up the polity and saying, oh, this is what and all that, that to me is that why did you sign the peace apart? The peace, yes, thing. what was in your mind that time? Did you sign it because you intended to, or if it favors me, it's okay. If it doesn't favor me, I started. I think that we've had enough of all these things.
Okay, is it possible? Is it constitutional, Dr. Nkom, that peace part that was signed, as you said, by the two gladiators, is it possible to invoke the necessary measures in that peace part, that you signed this and you read all before you appended your signature? Why wouldn't you now accept the results?
Judy, I like, you see, when you use the Constitution occasionally, in most cases, has no soul. 1 + 1 is 2. But in social intercourse, you know that 1 + 1 can be 4 or 5. I expected a gentlemanly agreement. That is, you don't need to go to court to check the validity and the constitutionality, people's argument and all that. We have agreed as gentlemen that, okay, if you win, you win. If I win, I win. And I expected that to be obeyed. It doesn't need to be constitutional. You have given my word. Yes.
So it should be a moral thing.
A moral issue.
All right.
Yes.
Okay, Engineer Fijabi, I want to also believe that you participated in the electoral process.
Yes, I did.
We've had the first leg. The second leg will come up by March 9. Now, one salient thing Dr. Nkom raised is the issue of imperfect electoral process, that which is not peculiar to Nigeria alone. Can we begin to look at particularly the area of security? Because security is so key. Once the security is well mapped out, the architecture is also well mapped out, then you can begin to have, let me say, 50-60% perfect election. So how do we scale this order?
Well, of course, security is a major issue in any election. A situation in which you have like 21% turnout in Lagos. I think, I'm not sure of the figures of Ogun, but Lagos is next to Kano in terms of electoral size, electoral population, and only 21% or thereabout cast their vote. You could say the apathy came as a result of the heated polity around that time. People wondering whether their lives were going to be safe and whether, they will go home safely after casting their votes and so on. A secured nation will ensure adequate participation of its citizenry, and that's an issue that we need to really look into very, very seriously. When the hooligans and the riffraffs are allowed to have the reins, to hold the reins in our electoral process, while the either the police are overwhelmed or they look the other way because they are also partisans, it's not good enough for us.
But okay, isn't that the political class that also promote or engineer the hoodlums, the miscreants, to hijack the process?
Well, that's it. You do that where you are popular so that you can be able to, gather more votes, take care of the areas where you're not popular, and then you unleash the reign of terror in the area where you are popular, where you are not popular also, in order to reduce the percentage of turnout, so that it will affect you in the polls. These are some of the tactics that have been used in developing nations, and that has to stop if indeed we want to continue to have, if we dream of credible elections. So in a way, security is a major concern.
Or don't you think our population, in terms of number, actually overwhelm the security apparatus? Because globally it is said that 1 policeman to 10 citizens, but I don't think that is a ratio in Nigeria. So how do you want the security in this situation to be able to curtail the SSCs?
Well, and I don't think it is there in most advanced nations in the world, seriously. I remember my first time in Canada, and I saw vast land and I saw sparse population, and I even joked about, can't we bring some people from Oshodi to come and populate this vast land without population? But one other thing that I noticed was that you hardly saw policemen.
Okay.
So there are other ways in which policing is done apart from the human capacities. There are so many other ways. The fact that there are cameras all over the place means that if you steal, you will be caught. It's only a matter of time, and some of those issues. So it is not actually the number of policemen that is important. It is the apparatus that they have, the equipment that are available for them, how adequately trained they are to be able to meet with the challenges, facing the nation. And of course, the general mindset of the people about elections. If they see elections as a war, a do or die affair, then they will succumb to the temptations offered them by the political class to be part of the group that will cause mayhem somewhere, in order for them to gain advantage over the other party. But if we see it as people voicing their opinions and their will being reflecting in the electoral process, then it will come to pass. But like Dr. Nkem said, this issue of electoral difficulties spread across the world. You know what is happening in North Carolina now? The election to the federal house has been cancelled because they found out that there were manipulations of results. No, manipulation of the voters. And that, gave results that could not be validated, and so the election had to be cancelled. So there will be new voting process that will just begin. They will go through the primaries again, and from the primaries to electoral process, which I think they might complete in the next 1 month or two. So it's everywhere in the world. Wherever you have human beings, and politics is a very emotive thing, and people are emotional. It has caused strain between two brothers, dad and mom, dad and son, daughter and mom. So it's an issue that has to be, taken, very seriously.
Okay, Dr. Nkem. Now, we saw at this presidential election 2019, the percentage of voters turnout has been calculated and is at 37.5%. Wherein in 2015 it was 43.65%. Now, no doubt about that, there is a sharp drop from 2015 to 2019. And I want you to explain, what do you think will have been responsible for that? Prior to the election, a lot of people believe that we didn't have real campaign. It was mudslinging, assassination of characters, and what have you, that we saw being thrown to the front burner. And the issue of voters' apathy, what do you think could have been responsible to have this drop in percentage?
Today we are discussing statistics. If you have two people registered for an election and one person votes, that is 50%.
Okay.
That's it. If you have 5,000 and maybe 1,000 you have voters, you are talking of about 25% or 20%.
Yeah.
So when you should interpret these statistics with that in mind, it doesn't mean anything more than just statistics. And I'll tell you why. If the last election we had, how many people actually registered for it?
You mean the
last before this one? Yes, 2015.
2015, okay.
That's number one. Number two, how many people have died? You see, there's no way of reading out some of those things from the electoral register. You now have mass movement of people. Some people translocate from Kaduna to Sokoto, even from Ashero to Pasheka. If you register in Ashero and you have not done the transfers, you can't vote in Pasheka.
So the figure NIC gave us prior to this election, one could say is not accurate.
No, it is accurate within the limits of what they have, but you have to look at what is this figure all about. What I'm saying is that some people have died. They couldn't have removed those names. Two is that even if you registered, you had the PVC, you might, and then you stay, maybe you registered at Akwa Ibom State. You cannot come and vote in Abeokuta, except you transfer, you do what you call transfer and all those things, which is a bit cumbersome. Number three is that don't be surprised that we had some ghost names, although they claim. You see, you had this one. Nigerians are a group of people who can do anything. So if people can clone ATM cards and all that, I don't see why. Although INEC says no, it didn't happen, it didn't clone. Number 3 is that I might register. You don't know the reason why I registered. I might not register to vote. I might register because any government can say before your child goes to school, you must have to bring out those things. That is another thing. And number 3 is that even I might register and I feel too big to go and vote because I don't want to stand in the sun. I don't want the rain to beat me. I don't want the security guard to tell me to move about. I am putting on a very expensive shirt and a Gucci shoe. I don't want anybody to step on it, so I might not appear. That is why most of the so-called elites, they don't come out and vote. The people who come out and vote, stand in the rain, sun, whatever, are people who are used to standing in the rain, standing in the sun to sell pepper soup, to sell this. That is why you have our women, our mothers, the market women, the artisans who come out. You see, they are used to the hard life. We are not. We are air-conditioned offices, air-conditioned.
Don't think the political class find it so easy to cajole them than the elite, because you are lettered. So if a politician is telling you, you could read from his countenance whether he's genuinely saying those things.
Today, you see, that's a mistake. We elites, we make that mistake that they don't understand politics. They don't understand issues. We have that impression that you have to bribe them before they can. There's an error which as time goes on we begin to know. Go to some of this, especially in the western part of this country. The market women are very educated. The so-called the people in the street, when they discuss politics with you, go to Itoku market and read that thing. And the way they will explain political issues to you, you'll be shocked. So it's not as easy as that. They don't know what to do. Of course they know what to do. They know what to do. It's only that we think they don't know what to do. So this voters' apathy is, and also is all over the world too, as Engineer Fijabi said. Even in America, people are complaining that people are not coming out, despite the fact that it is very easy. You can do posting, you can stay in your house, you don't need to go out in the sun. And yes, they say how voters, they turnout is still somehow questionable.
But that is the case of Nigeria, Engineer Fijabi, where you have just 37% electing a president in a population of 84 million people that were registered, over 72 million collected their PVC, and yet you have such.
That's about close to 40%, and that is there's no way you can get up to even 50 in advanced democracies. There's no way they can. 50% of the voters will come out. It's not possible. And don't forget, in democracy you have free will. You might decide not to vote. Simple. I don't want to vote. I don't want to vote. That's my right.
Okay, Engineer Fijabi, when we begin to look at the results of this last presidential election, one can't advance or adduce that it's like we have a voting pattern in Nigeria. When you take the 6 geopolitical zones, northeast, they've always been following a particular direction, northwest, ditto for that, north central, that's a mixed zone. You have some to the left, some to the right. Now, southwest also, we have us going in one direction, but look at this pendulum this time around. It didn't swing in one direction. You have some, Oyo and Ondo went to PDP, the remaining 6, the remaining 4 states, it was very, very tight. The southeast, they have always been following one direction and the rest. So why are we going to continue to have such? Because it has been playing out, at least when we look at this Fourth Republic since 1999, it has always been playing out that way. Will that in any way assist us to develop our democracy?
Well, I guess that's one of the things politicians have to study. And that's why it is, well, I don't want to say it's easy to win a national election in Nigeria, but you can actually play the game once you understand the mindset of the people from the 6 geopolitical zones. But Yoruba land has always been a battlefield because the Yoruba people can vote you out, despite the fact that your party is predominant in where they come from. You can understand what happened in Ondo State. A lot of them were not happy about those candidates that they fielded. There were a lot of intra-party, challenges, and that manifested. In Oyo, people were disgruntled about the government of the state, and they, show their annoyance by voting. I know efforts are being made to ensure that things return to normal, the so-called normal, in March 9th elections. And I'm privy to a lot of the plans that are going on to ensure that things return to normal. But what do you call normalcy in the West? I'm proud to be a Yoruba man, in the sense that you see somebody who is your neighbor and you don't like what he does and you vote against him, like they did in for a vice president. I mean, from VGC, where he came from, they say, okay, we just don't like your politics and we want to show it. Okay, you might say, okay, because VGC is predominantly non-Yorubas, you could say that they are elites and then who are looking for a particular, they're looking for something that they don't get with its government, but that's part of politics. I don't like you is enough reason to vote somebody out. And you don't have to depend on what people are doing within the environment. You may just make up your mind. Yeah, but by and large, the Igbos have voted the way they normally would vote. Northwest had a choice between two northerners, and they chose one. And then once they decide, they overwhelmingly vote. The North Central split, like I've always said. 2015, APC won. Benue as well as Plateau.
Plateau and Nasarawa.
Yeah, but they still won Nasarawa this time. Yeah. But they lost Plateau and Benue for reasons that are very obvious. People are not happy about the killing and the maiming, and the Christian population is huge there, and they say no, enough is enough. Mr. President, if you're going to win our vote, you've got to do more than you are doing now. So it is still split. You could see APC winning four states and PDP holding to 3 because they won Taraba now. Yeah. They won Taraba, they won Benue, yes, and they won Plateau. And of course, if you consider FCT being in the North Central, yeah. So it's like 4-4, split, almost evenly. But in terms of population, APC will still have an edge in the North Central. So by and large, people have voted according to predictions, and I didn't see much of upsets in any of those places. The one in the West can easily be explained, and of course we all know what happened in Kwara. This is the first time Sharaki dynasty will be in opposition. If you look at it, that, so they'll use the power of the federal might to continually win elections. This is the first time they will engage in an election and belong to the opposing party, and it was not easy for them to be able to win. So
okay, Dr. Uncle, what
yes. When we look at the analysis, I always have a bit of problem analyzing this present election. I expected, we are discussing the presidential election, I expect President Buhari to have had more than what he had. The difference between APC and PDP, 3 million. I expected something like, yes, I expected about 6 or 7 million. And you ask me why. The problem that party had was that they are primaries. That primary nearly destroyed that party. They are lucky that
you mean APC?
APC.
The national
primary. Yeah, the primary. Yeah, the primaries of governors, of all the Senate, all the Senate and all that.
House of Reps.
We can look at what happened in Ogun State. We can look at what happened in Zamfara State. We can look at even Rivers State and all that and all. Nearly all the Imo State? Yeah. All the states, APC had problem with the primary. And you expect, and it was worrying to me that here is someone who has got everything and then could not manage success. If they had not had that split, if they had not had that, because some people voted against the party, even people who are not, who don't belong to the party, but because when they saw what happened and they expected a level of decorum and they didn't see, they voted against the party, not that they voted for the opposing party. You might say, I don't like you, but since there are two alternatives, then let me vote for this other one. Because if they had managed that primary very well, I hope, as Engineer Fitzgerald said, I hope that after this they will sit down, they should have political historians in them, they should sit down and look at it, especially these primaries. Are you using consensus, direct or indirect primary? In some states they use consensus. In some they had primaries. Some had the indirect and direct primaries. And even when they had direct primaries, the so-called party apparatus cancelled some of them elections. Some of the inter-party elections they had, the primaries, because they want to impose some people on others. That in itself should not be, and that in itself would distort the analysis we are having. Because if you have not had that, I wouldn't see why are you voting? I'm sorry to say that, for PDP. Why should anybody want to vote for PDP? Because they have done what? We saw what happened in 18 years.
But that's a democracy. You must have choice.
That's why I'm coming. Yes, you have a choice. Yes, I'm saying. What is it that they have done that will make us to forget about the past so soon? The answer, I can't remember. Maybe some people.
Well, this party at the point apologized to all Nigerians that they've identified their mistakes.
I expect them, yes, atone for their sins and then wait before coming. That's what I expected, but they didn't do that one. But look at Ogun State. If I might come in a bit, look at what APC has done in Ogun. Has transformed the. I've been in Ogun State for about 28 years. I've seen the tremendous improvement in the last 8 years, 7 or 8 years. I expected that when APC feels a candidate in Ogun State, other parties should take a leave.
Should go to bed.
That's what I expected. I saw the governor, Senate elect and all that. He had about 88,000 and someone at 33. And I wondered why so close, 88 to 33. I expected people not to even come near that level. But it was because I agree. You see, today I agree. You see, democracy is not just is beyond. I don't like your face. I don't like this. We must get to substance. You might not like someone's face. I might not like Tunde. Tunde, he has done so well. I don't like the way he talks. So his mouth is not good. But what has he done? That is when you talk of substance in politics, not just the ephemeral. And that's why I'm saying that because of that, so people, they demystified themselves. Demystified and then gave room for people who want to come in now to come and claim what he have no business being there. I'm sorry to be a bit harsh on them. They shouldn't have been. I hope that next time around, the parties will sit down and map out their strategy from day one. If you are going to go for elective position, either consensus, direct primaries and indirect primaries, so everybody knows. And if they had done that, I think that they would have gathered more votes and the analysis would have been easier, because this distorts what the people are really thinking of. The fact that I wanted to vote for Tunde and 2 hours later because what have happened, and then it distorts the discussion and makes it difficult to come to good conclusions.
Engineer Fijabi, let's look at the 6 geopolitical zones that we have in Nigeria. But I want us to limit our scope to northwest and south-south. President Buhari, even before now, since 2003, has always been dominant in the west, the northwest, even when he didn't win the overall election. Now we saw that played out again on last Saturday, and in the south too. Since 1999, when we returned to this Fourth Republic, they've always been following one direction, that is going the way of PDP. And we saw that when you look at the percentage in northwest, APC had 72% and PDP had 28%. And coming to south-south, APC has 24%, PDP 76%. So what does that portend for our democracy if we continue to have a single party or a candidate dominating a particular area, region, year in, year out, or election in, election out?
Okay. Even in the United States today, you have states that Republican Party will say these are safe states. And then these are marginal states where there could still be competition and so on. And then you could afford to tone down your Republican rhetorics or your Democratic rhetorics because any of the parties could win in those places. And the goal of anyone trying to win the presidential elections in the U.S. is to turn some of the red states, which are the Republican states, into blue Democratic, or if you're a Republican, presidential candidate, you want to turn some of the blue democratic states into red. It's a challenge that has been there. For example, now, if you consider APC as blue, they have been able to turn Kwara blue from red. All right, it's the goal. Now, the fact that you have some solid votes coming from an area is not undemocratic. It could be as a result of their history. It could be because of the experience they've had. And if you want to change that, you will have to do a mind shift for the people. And to be able to do that mind shift, that will be a tall order. But, Abiola did it during his elections, breaking through the molds. The North Central, the Northwest, the Northeast all supported him. The only place where he failed to get a lot of 25% was in the South and the Southeast.
Even when they had a northerner as opposition.
Even when, so of course, he also won in Tofa's toll gate, yes. Polling booth, ward, local government, as well as state. Now, so that means it's possible for you to have a candidate who will be able to break the molds. We haven't got him yet. Maybe in someday we have somebody from the South who is going to break the mold in the South, break the mold in the Southeast, and be able to, get the West running for him. It depends on what you're able to do. But the fact that these voting patterns are there are not in themselves undemocratic. People have choices. Zones have choices to decide who they want to vote for by reason of their history. They may say, okay, we fear the Yorubas, and those fears are deep-seated. And it's a Yoruba man, I'm not going to vote for him as yet. Until you get a Yoruba man who is able to persuade them and say, come on, I have, good news for you. I can do this, I can do that, and it can bring about a mind shift.
Now, if I may add a bit, if you look at the Abiola elections, you see that was a landmark, and we lost. We had a Muslim ticket, nobody was interested, whether you're a Muslim or a Christian. And they had a Yoruba man who went up and then could persuade the Northerners, please vote for me, and also persuaded the Easterners. I'm talking of the South now. And then everywhere he went, what happened that people received him. And when we truncated that election, we reversed for at least 2 or 3 elections. Because people open up their hands, people open up their mindset, but someone stopped it, and the other said, wait a minute, were we stupid? What we did?
What are we doing?
What are we doing?
If they had
allowed that election to go on, believe you me, we could have been near to what we are thinking. But if someone truncated that election, and that person still has not been held accountable, that made us to start thinking too much. I can assure you that as time goes on, we are going to go back to that one about whether you're a Muslim or a Christian or animist and all that. Nobody says, what can you do for us? We are going towards that, the political evolution. But if they truncated it earlier on, and so that appears to create these problems we are now having. And because I don't see why my governor should not be Muslim and deputy governor Muslim and all that. Who cares about that? I don't see why you should not have Christian. Two, I don't care why a Yoruba man should not win in Akwa Ibom State, like what is happening in Lagos State, where you have Igbos going to Lagos
After
State.
all, the constitution has it that if
Exactly.
you live in a place for 10 years,
Yes.
and you voted
Yes.
for.
And as Jennifer said, he said, you see, I don't like a Yoruba man. Some people say that I'm not going to. But when they get to know that, they're innocuous. There's nothing. Actually, these are stereotypes which you should throw away. Of course, the Nigerians are ready to throw it away. But you must encourage them to throw away those stereotypes. Not by someone having a good election and someone comes to give a reason and 20 years after you come and tell us another thing and expect us to follow. No, you don't. So those are the things which you also must consider in explaining the demographics of this election.
All right, thank you very much. The program is still Democratic Part from OGTV here in Abeokuta. And we are taking a post-mortem of last Saturday's presidential election that was held in Nigeria across 109,973 polling units across 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory. Should sentiment agenda still determine how our voting pattern should look like, or which candidate should we consider the best material to occupy a particular political office? All this you get to hear more from my guests in the house as we go on the break now. Join us again.